Over China's 5,000 years of history, emperors and dynasties have come and gone. No one lasted forever. Likewise, in the democratic world, leaders and political parties rise and fall. Some win and some lose. The Chinese Communist Party has been ruling China for 73 years, and the conditions that have sustained it are quickly disappearing. How will this game play out? Are we beginning to see the end of the regime? And how did Mao Zedong and Deng Xiaoping predict the CCP's downfall? Hello, welcome to my show. I'm Lei. With so much social unrest taking place in China and the economic and political crisis that the regime faces, we can't help but ask the question, will the CCP collapse soon? Let's review the regime's past to help us understand the present as we look into the future. After fighting an 8-year war with Japan, followed by a 4-year civil war, China succumbed to the control of the communists in 1949. The CCP's 73-year rule can be divided into 4 periods. The first was from the establishment of the People's Republic of China to the anti-rightist movement in 1957. During this period, the CCP laid the groundwork for establishing a state-controlled economy. The regime eliminated landlords, capitalists, and business owners, in addition to ending private ownership through the forced nationalization of land, properties, schools, and businesses. The anti-rightist movement in the late 1950s eradicated different opinions and voices of opposition among the intellectuals. The second period began with the Great Leap Forward movement in 1957 and ended with Mao's death in 1976. During this time, the CCP competed with the former Soviet Union for leadership of the international communist community. The Great Leap Forward was an economic campaign that Mao launched in order to pursue international dominance. To meet Mao's call to surpass Great Britain in steel production, people turned in their pots and pans and set up backyard furnaces to make steel. The Great Leap Forward led to wasteful use of resources, environmental hazards, and the Great Famine, which was estimated to have killed 15 to 40 million people. The destruction of the ecological balance and the reckless construction of reservoirs led directly or indirectly to one of the worst man-made disasters in human history, the August 1975 dam collapse in Henan province, which killed 240,000 people. After the failure of the Great Leap Forward, in order to avoid responsibility and defend his leadership, Mao dragged China into further turmoil, the decade-long Cultural Revolution. By the time the Cultural Revolution ended when Mao died in 1976, China's economy was on the verge of collapse. And from 1957 to Mao's death, some 50 million Chinese died of unnatural causes, including top CCP leaders and their families. Then Deng Xiaoping rose to power. He set 2 new rules for CCP leaders. 1. Keep internal factional war under control and don't kill each other. 2. Focus on growing the economy. Thus, the CCP entered its 3rd period, the period of economic reforms from 1977 to 2017, during which time the regime created a politically authoritarian but a somewhat economically free China model. During this time, the CCP also successfully evaded Western sanctions after the Tiananmen Square massacre. After joining the WTO in 2001, the CCP grew more confident. It believed, and still does, that as long as the regime focuses on economic growth, the Chinese market is a big enough incentive to silence the West on the subject of human rights abuses. The Great Leap Forward and the Cultural Revolution were Mao's legacy. Deng Xiaoping's legacy was economic growth plus the Tiananmen Square massacre. His successor, Jiang Zemin, inherited Deng's economic reforms and replaced the Tiananmen Square atrocities with his own persecution of the Falun Gong spiritual practice. The CCP top leadership was deeply divided over the issue of Falun Gong. In 1998, then chairman of the National People's Congress, Qiao Shi, produced an investigative report on Falun Gong and concluded that the practice was beneficial to the country. Many top leaders were reluctant to use a political campaign to suppress a meditation group because many of their families also practiced it. In April 1999, after nearly 10,000 people petitioned in Beijing regarding police harassment of Falun Gong in Tianjin, Premier Zhu Rongji invited Falun Gong reps to Zhongnanhai and reiterated China's policy that protected their right to meditate. The petitioners left, and the world's media praised Zhu for his peaceful resolution. But this upset Jiang Zemin. To consolidate power, he did what Mao Zedong did. He launched the Cultural Revolution 2.0, so to speak, which is still in effect to this day. Similar to Mao's Cultural Revolution working team, Jiang established the 610 office, which had absolute power to carry out surveillance, kidnapping, house raids, illegal sentencing, and torture of Falun Gong members beyond the law. People were forced to denounce the practice in public in order to get on buses or trains. Students had to answer the Falun Gong questions correctly on exams so they could go to school. Different from the Cultural Revolution 1.0, Jiang's version was carried out while China's economy experienced fast growth. People were preoccupied with making money, so this persecution wasn't popular in the early days. But Jiang used financial and job incentives to attract and motivate officials to carry out his orders. Therefore, the most morally corrupt individuals within the CCP were rewarded and promoted. Now, after more than 2 decades of systemic elimination of truth, compassion, and tolerance, which are Falun Gong's primary principles, Chinese society is facing a moral collapse, and corruption has become an epidemic. Meanwhile, the West has focused its attention on doing business with China and has ignored the regime's human rights abuses. This has emboldened the CCP even more. After 20 years of persecuting Falun Gong, the regime has accumulated an extensive repertoire of brutal techniques, and now Xi Jinping's regime is using them against the Uyghurs, labor camps, brainwashing, organ harvesting, torture, and so on. Also under Xi's rule, digital surveillance technology that was originally developed for monitoring Falun Gong is now being used on ordinary citizens and even beyond China's borders. 3 days after Donald Trump was inaugurated as U.S. President, Zhang Jun, Director General of the International Economic Department at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, said that China is willing to take over as the world's leader after the United States left. What he meant was that Trump's America First policy was an isolationist agenda, while China insisted on globalism and was willing to fill the void. With that, the CCP entered its 4th period, which has lasted till the present. The year 2017 was a turning point. After one term, Xi Jinping became more confident. His vision of building a community of common destiny for mankind was written into the CCP's constitution. Meanwhile, the United States shifted its strategic focus from the Middle East to the Pacific and started to counter the CCP in terms of trade, technology, the military, and geopolitics. There were 5 conditions that prevented the CCP from collapsing since Mao died. 1. Keep internal political infighting under control. 2. Attract foreign investment and keep it coming. 3. Produce steady, impressive GDP growth. 4. Ensure that the world accepts the China model. And 5. See that the United States doesn't take China as a strategic opponent. Now, all 5 conditions are either gone or quickly disappearing. Externally, the world has woken up to see the danger and harm of the so-called China model, and the United States has taken on China as its #1 strategic opponent. Domestically, political infighting has escalated beyond China's borders. Xi Jinping's anti-corruption campaign is a self-defeating exercise that will bring down the corrupt CCP. Foreign businesses and investments are quickly leaving China, and the Chinese economy has declined so abysmally that discussing Chinese GDP growth is meaningless. The 4 time periods I described are like the 4 quarters in an American football game. During the first half, Mao led the charge. Under him, the CCP suffered numerous self-inflicted wounds and teetered on the brink of collapse. During the third quarter, Deng took over and changed strategy, which rallied a strong comeback. And just as the CCP seemed victorious and unstoppable, a rookie on the opposing side took the field and played unconventionally. That threw off the CCP's game plan. The fourth quarter started with a dramatic change, and the CCP began losing momentum. The game is ongoing and still intense. How will it end? On April 9, 1974, Deng Xiaoping said this at the United Nations.
如果中国有朝一日变了颜色，变成一个超级大国，也在世界上称王称霸，到处欺负人家，侵略人家，剥削人家，那么世界人民就应当给中国戴上一顶社会帝国主义的帽子，就应当揭露它，反对它，并且同中国人民一道打倒它。
China's embassy in Canada said on its website that the above speech was approved by Mao Zedong. In fact, Mao himself said this while addressing the Chinese and foreign press in June 1944. How can a government that's not elected by the people have the audacity to represent the country? To love such a country is a betrayal of the motherland. My friends, and especially my 50 Cent Army followers, their words tell us something, right? I think it will be game over for the CCP soon. That's all for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.